Good morning and welcome in. This is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel.
You are a vital part of our game.
Thank you for having me on.
All the way to the green. Woo! Boy, was that fun.
I've always wanted to be on 5 Clubs. Thanks, Gary.
Good morning. Welcome into 5 Clubs live on a Tuesday here on Golf Channel and PGA Tour Radio, Channel 92 on SiriusXM. I'm Gary Williams in this program, wherever we may be. Yesterday we were in Fort Worth, Texas, back home today in our studios in Charlotte, North Carolina. Any day, wherever, it's always Century Insurance. We appreciate their support of what we do here, but their investment in the game of golf at every level, from the first tee to the USGA to the PGA Tour. But what they do is business insurance, and they want to evaluate yours with them because they want to be right by you. That's what they do. Great folks who we were with just a couple weeks ago at the Players. Century Insurance, our presenting sponsor, this Tuesday. You know, this is going to be the next 3 weeks. We're going 2. That's right, 2 hours, 3 straight weeks. So today, 2 hours, next Tuesday, 2 hours, and the following Monday, which of course is Masters Week, 2 hours. Excited to have it. So with that, our tee sheet on this 2-hour Tuesday, here we have it, TGL Finals. Look, I'm going to be silly about the analogies I'm going to give you here in a moment, but nonetheless, we will. Last night, LA flipped the script late. They beat Jupiter Links, and they set up the drama of tonight. Sean Zach from Golf Magazine just came back from South Africa. He ain't scared to travel and see the world and the view of the game of golf from all different cultures. He spent a summer in St. Andrews, wrote a book about it, was recently in Dubai, now South Africa. And he, of course, is somebody we love to get his thoughts on that, on anything as it relates to the professional game. Taylor Zarzour, his show just finished on PGA Tour Radio. He's hopped in his late model sedan. He is headed from South Charlotte over here to the South End to join me in studio for an hour. There are many things to get to with the host of The Starter, which includes these storylines that you know, they kind of run as threads through the fabric of a season. And we're at a point now where we're on the cusp of the first major. You look back and you go, for a lot of these players, a quarter of their season is over. Storylines with him. Look, we're not getting knee deep on standings. We're only going to give you the FedEx Cup standings to kind of contextualize who's in a place that they may not depart from over the course of the season. Locks when it comes to standings early. Again, we're not giving you numbers, we're just giving you names. And then trend lines as it relates to that first major of the year. There are some people whose line is going in the right direction, and there are others, like John Candy and Steve Martin in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, are going in the wrong direction. How would they know what direction is the wrong direction? One of the great scenes of all time. And then finally, my boy, John Cook, 21 times combined winning on the PGA Tour, 11 there, 10 more on PGA Tour Champions. And it's interesting to talk to John about approaches to major championships. But the other thing with John Cook, who was a wonder boy, who won a U.S. Amateur, then was in the final the following year and won a national championship, he was an it guy. He be making as much NIL as anybody. Toe-headed blonde boy from Southern California by way of Ohio State, driving a Porsche Carrera in the late 70s. He had it all. He would have had the cash too, but his rookie year on tour didn't start off well. I'm looking forward to getting his thoughts on how he got his bearings and believed in himself when it comes to, yeah, I belong here. So John Cook, before we're done, 2 hours on a Tuesday. All right, so here we go. TGL is finishing their season right now. And rightly, they found their way to position themselves at what is kind of this little respite, this little window between all these NCAA tournament games and when you get to the Sweet 16. So last night, it's Jupiter Links, it's LA Golf, Max Homa, by way of LA, playing for Jupiter Links. That is when it's 1-1. That's the 7th hole. Tom Kim taking the club from him. Here's what I would say about Tom Kim since it's NCAA tournament time. Tom Kim is a Duke point guard. You know who I'm talking about. The Wojos slapping the floor, the Bobby Hurleys. He can be an agitator. I mean, he would fit in the uniform, would he not? He'd be perfect. Like that gesture right there, like, who, me? I didn't hack him. He is built for that. Speaking of built for lights, how many times is Justin Rose, I don't care how frivolous this might be to a lot of people, lights on, needs to make something happen. What is it, Medina, 17th hole, Sunday singles, and right there is when they flipped the script, and it was 5-4 Jupiter. They dropped the hammer, literally, and so they win night one, which sets up night two. And as you see, El Capitan, Tiger Woods there, he's playing tonight. Of course he's playing tonight. It's a TV show. Come on. I mean, how many other cliffhangers would not be cliffhangers if he doesn't come out there? And whether it is Kurt Schilling with the bloody sock or Willis Reed hobbling out there to make a couple of buckets for the Knicks in the early 70s, I'm kind of joking. But where I'm not joking is what this means beyond this and what it also is meant in terms of his career. Here he is, the greatest player that most everybody who is under the age of 50 has ever seen really play golf. But the reality about Tiger's career is that for a lot of people, and I'm including a lot of people who play for a living, I'm including the best players in the world, that whether they be between 25 and 35, and that basically everybody who is in the top 50 in the world, with a few exceptions, Justin Rose certainly being one of them, because he saw it before it became injury riddled. And the idea that when Tiger was going to play, hasn't it felt like he's been coming back from injury for almost 2 decades? Because he has. When he won the U.S. Open in 2008, since that time, and of course he didn't play in the final 2 majors of that year, and then he showed up the next year, and certainly he didn't win a major, but he was close. And then it was Y Yang at the PGA in August of 2009, and you're going, wow, this is going to be the longest winter of his life because he squandered something he never had before. And then obviously what happened around Thanksgiving of that year sent us into a very different place as it came to examining him. But what the last 2 decades have been known for with respect to him is coming back from injury. Because since that U.S. Open in 2008, Tiger has never played more than 8 straight majors in a row. That's almost 20 years. That's only 2 years in a row where he's managed to be healthy enough to be able to go out and play. And contrast that with the life and the career of Jack Nicklaus, who was his measuring stick, has been the only guy that we have associated with him in terms of achievement really almost immediately because of what he did by winning the 3 straight U.S. Amateurs and then winning immediately. And Jack's first professional win was a U.S. Open in '62. And there is Tiger in 1997 in his first Masters as a pro, taking his generation's best out to the woodshed and saying, you want another? And I'm talking about the likes of Paul Azinger and Colin Montgomery, most notably, and Nick Faldo on that Thursday, 40-30. Jack Nicklaus from 1962 to the middle of 1998, he didn't miss a major. Tiger hasn't played more than 8 in a row in almost 20 years. And Jack, by contrast, played in 146 straight. It's mind-blowing to think about if, and Jack said it a couple of weeks ago, hey, look, if he was healthy, he would have blown by me. And he said it, and he's not being pragmatic now. He held out hope, and I thought he took the right position. But tonight, here he comes, and he's going to hit some shots in his simulator. He doesn't have, the laborious act of having to walk between holes. Hits a shot, goes back to the bench, comes back out, hits a few more. And people are going to make notice of the speed in his golf swing. And what does this foreshadow when it comes to the Masters tournament, which is, oh my gosh, a week from Monday, it's Masters Monday. And I expect him to go there with the intent to play 9 holes a day, possibly building toward saying, yeah, I'm going to give it a go. And I think that's what's going to be his mantra. But tonight, he gives the great tease, because you'll see shots and you won't see the majesty of flight. Ball's going to go into a screen, and then you're going to rely on, just kind of that technology. But he's going to suspend belief to a degree. And for a large degree, hasn't he done that since he was a teenager? Whether it was when he was 16 in 1992, playing in the LA Open, and he looked like he was about $120 soaking wet. And then he showed up, obviously, and did what he did by winning multiple times in the fall of 1996 after Hello World. Hasn't he really suspended our belief that he could do things? And by the way, when he came back after, whether it be scandal or injury, and you're going, he hadn't played, there's no way he can be a factor. And he did just that. He factored immediately. I'm not saying he's going to do that, because I think that window is slammed shut. But he has allowed you to suspend your own belief. And so tonight, the TV tease is on by way of TGL. And will they get a bump? Hell yeah, they get a bump. Tiger on a Tuesday between NCAA, second round and round of 16 games. It's almost like it was planned. He didn't plan the back surgery, but the build to get to hit some shots on TV and create some buzz for something. Oh, by the way, he's got real skin in the game. Heck yeah. They win already, and he hadn't even taken the stage. We take a break. Good to have you with us. A 2-hour Tuesday. Sean Zach, Golf Magazine, golf.com. His thoughts on traveling to South Africa, seeing the view of the game of golf that's produced a number of great generational players, and some other items. And then a little bit later on, Taylor Zarzour in studio with me for an hour. John Cook later on. You're going, how are you going to do all that? That's why we got 2 hours, which is a glorious thing, live on Golf Channel and PGA Tour Radio, Channel 92, SiriusXM. Good to have you with us. Back right after this. Back in on 5 Clubs Live on a Tuesday here on Golf Channel and PGA Tour Radio, Channel 92 on SiriusXM. This segment brought to you by Peter Millar. It's cold again in Charlotte. I was in Fort Worth Sunday. It was 95. Drive in this morning. It's like in the low 40s. That's why it's always good to have the cashmere from Peter Millar. Doesn't matter what season, they've got you covered. The premier lifestyle brand. Whatever you need is at petermillar.com. All right, joining me now from Golf Magazine, golf.com. He's got his own podcast he shares with his colleagues, which is great conversation. And he looks pretty good. Considering a little 15-hour jaunt from South Africa. He is Sean Zach, my friend. Good morning. How are you feeling? You're in Chicago. How you feeling? Pretty good?
Yeah, well, I've been up for 4 hours. It's 7 a.m. here. So, it's amazing how much work you can get done when it's dark out and quiet and no one's texting you. So we've actually had a very productive morning.
Look at you getting up. Again, I know because your body clock is saying what it is. Instead of fighting it, getting up, being productive. I know there's a lot going on. You've challenged yourself. I mentioned at the start of the program that you were coming on. You went to St. Andrews, and again, you can be like, okay, look, this is a great place to spend a summer, but yet you still did that. You went to Dubai toward the latter part of last year, which I'm sure you've thought about pretty recently, considering how precarious the world is right now. And then South Africa now. In challenging yourself to see all these different things, let's start with South Africa. What were you taken by most about the experience being there?
It's hard to look past the number of people who wanted to attend a LIV Golf event. It's not like South Africa doesn't get golf tournaments. The DP World Tour goes there multiple times every year, and there are some of the best golfers in the history of the game are from South Africa. So this is not some brand new undercover thing, but 100,000 tickets were sold to that golf tournament, and it really felt like 100,000 people showed up to it too, which has not always been the case for LIV Golf. It is not the case when LIV hosts a tournament in Saudi Arabia or in Singapore, but South Africa, as much as it still gets a lot of golf, is still underserved. Like, it is a major golf market that not every tour goes to, but LIV is going to continue going there.
Yeah, and that is, Adelaide has got, you think about these great sporting nations and different reasons, but Australia, in terms of what the great championships were in Augusta National, I think has fortified them to a degree, as has the RNA in terms of, invitations not already exempt into those two majors. But you're right about South Africa. Look, the DP World Tour anchors there for weeks at a time toward the latter part of the year, at the beginning of the year, but yet they didn't get the biggest, brightest stars, and here they get the needle threaded with Bryson and Jon Rahm. Give me a sense of how lathered up that joint was as that weekend unfolded.
Yeah, lathered up is the best word for it, because South Africa is a huge sporting nation, but they're also just a bunch of partiers. And I say that lovingly. Like, they showed up wanting to party, and I think that is one of the elements of the LIV Golf template, if you will, is like creating a party. They're going to bring in major musical acts like Calvin Harris. There's this DJ named Black Coffee, which like everyone in South Africa knew. So, oftentimes there's the golf tournament happening at LIV, but there's just people there to go to a concert later that night. There's that kind of balance of like, are there golfers here or are there just like music fans here? Bottom line is there are a lot of people here. They're lathered up for Bryson and Rahm. You said it, threading the needle. It was kind of the perfect storm. The course was not that great. The course was underwater essentially, but they have two of probably the top 4 Masters favorites playing against each other right into the end, into a playoff. It's impossible to ignore that stuff.
No, Sean, with respect to the favorite part, I know some people, they go, well, I struggle to understand, in terms of trends or form and LIV, and how do I evaluate or value, the wins. Data Golf is widely considered, and I think rightfully, they've taken out the ambiguity of it. They evaluate performance. And Data Golf has Jon Rahm over the last 3 months being the best player in the world. That's everybody. So knowing that as you do, are Rahm and Bryson in your 4? And of those two, who do you lean into more?
Yeah, the answer is yes for 2 of the top 4, no doubt. And I lean towards Rahm. His floor is so high. And I often think about that when I think about Scottie Scheffler is, okay, we know what the ceiling is. The ceiling is when Scottie wins by 6 or 7 or 8, which he's done a bunch. We know with Rahm what the ceiling can be, but we also realize that the floor with both of those guys is so high. I mean, Jon Rahm has finished outside the top 10 on LIV 1 time in the last year and a half. He did it when he finished T11, right? That's the only time he's finished outside the top 10 was when he was 1 stroke away from doing so. His floor is immensely high. I think he goes into Augusta National and right around 69 is par for him that day. I don't like to make a joke about the quote, like Bryson showed up at Augusta National a few years ago and said, this is a par 68. But when you're playing the type of golf that Jon Rahm's playing, anything worse than 70 at a course that you know really well, you've learned and understood and studied over the years, anything worse than 70 feels like a little bit of a letdown because he's playing that level of golf.
Yeah, he is. And again, for people who go, these finishes, look, take the finishes out. Look at what is, again, it cuts through the clutter of what people try to, at times struggle with is where are they playing? Data Golf in terms of performance. He's been better than anybody for the first 90 days of this year. Rory, to me, Sean, is one, he's got to manage, and it's going to be mostly joy and enjoyment and great reflection of coming back after what happened last year. But that can be challenging at times in terms of narrowing the focus. I thought he was headed in a great place, and then he tweaked his back. Where are you with him right now, knowing he's not going to play again before showing up there in a week, a little bit over a week's time?
Yeah, I'm skeptical. You have to be. I think a lot of people in the media really love Rory. He's great to the media, and he's flown the flag for the PGA Tour in a very positive way. But in this moment, it's easy to be skeptical. His back has been a question for the last few weeks, his form has been pretty good, not at the highest level. So like, when is he going to get like winning reps, contention reps? It's not going to happen before the Masters. And we saw last year what that was like for him. It ended up in victory, but it came very close to ending up in heartbreak again. Like, there's some bugaboo nature to that golf course that he conquered last year, but that doesn't mean that the golf course gets any easier for him to conquer it this year. There will be a ton of distraction in the sense of all the questions he's going to have to answer about what this past year has been like, what the Champions Dinner will have been like. All these things take you away slightly from like what's absolutely in front of you focus wise. And so, yeah, I would doubt that Rory wins again. It would be foolish to say he can't contend because of the back, but like, you really got to see, is he laboring on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday before this thing? Because no one like Bryson and Rahm are not laboring. Scotty Scheffler, he owns that golf course in many ways.
Yeah.
Like, he will be in good shape. Rory has to put himself against where those guys are right now, and he's just slightly beneath them, I think, in my eyes.
Yeah, I thought, Sean, the way that he wrapped up Pebble, had a very good final round, bogey-free. I thought the way that he was shaping shots, there was an artistry, and the data also in terms of the stats of his iron play at Riviera was great. I thought he was set up going into the week. I thought that he was doing the build, the proper build. And now I like you wonder, but I will say this in terms of, what he dealt with breaking through that vortex, which was the thickest, considering the duality of not only the absence of winning any major, but also trying to cross that particular line as nobody has. Sarazen retroactively, obviously, when he did it in 35. If he puts himself in position to go back-to-back, which only a couple people have done, by the way, in the history of the event, is it easier by a big margin to last year, or does it suddenly enter a space psychologically and intellectually for him late that could be as close to how hard it was last year?
It has to be easier. He'll work with Bob. He'll talk to Bob Rotella all week, and Bob Rotella will tell him, you've done this. You did it 360 some odd days ago. Like, you can absolutely do it again. And it will be interesting, though, Gary, the circumstances if we get into that position. Because going into Sunday, it was him versus Bryson DeChambeau last year. And Bryson does not have a green jacket. And Bryson has some of his own demons at Augusta National. And so at some point, Rory knew he was playing one golfer that day. And once he felt like he had vanquished Bryson, that's when he pitches into the creek on 13. Once he gets to the 18th hole and he has a chance to get up and down from the middle of the fairway, that's when he fans it into the bunker. So, like, the winning moments when Rory thinks he's going to walk to that green jacket are moments where it still didn't really work out for him last year. So, will he be chasing this year? That's a completely different scenario. Like, it should be easier, but it's still really, really hard. And, it beats up on people. If you think about Jordan Spieth, right? He was the defending champion in 2016 after being so good there in 14, winning there in 15, getting to number 12 in 16. And it feels like Jordan's entire career shifted in that like half an hour. And so, I'll wrap with this, is basically Augusta National has a bunch of things that make you feel good, returning to certain holes where you've hit amazing shots. Yes. Rory loved retrying that shot on 15 a couple weeks ago, the good vibes. The place is also filled with bad vibes, little corners where you've screwed up before. That doesn't evade your memory just because you've won in the past.
No, you're exactly right. And there's a really neat book that I recommend to people. It's called The War on Art, and it talks about resistance. And resistance of things we want most is the hardest the closer we are to it. So I think we're with him, he's had to deal with, whether it was any major or that one in particular, for so long. But if he gets close to the finish line again, I will say this, as you know, the air when you go from 5 to 6 and 6 to 7, they're not like the same size steps. They're like quantum leaps. So if he gets himself close again, I could see how the resistance could feel similar, because it's like, not only could I go back to back, I suddenly could jump from 5 to 6. I'm going into a Masters category that only a few people reside in. That's why all these storylines are so great. Before I let you go, the back end of the Masters ushers in this density of signature series events before the next major. You have Heritage, you have Truist, you have Miami. It's like, okay, are we going to see the first kind of erosion, and I mean this modestly, of fields between Augusta National and the PGA because of jamming all these things together?
That's a good question. You know, I think right now the future of the PGA Tour, as we continue to describe it, like it's so in flux that I think players realize, you know, even if I feel pretty safe, even if, you know, I've had a couple top 10s earlier this year, I still got to play these events. Like nothing is a given on the PGA Tour these days. Granted, the future will probably include a number a lot closer to 120 in the biggest events rather than 75 or 80, but nothing is a given. You know, injuries happen. Justin Thomas had to wait to come back in March this year. And I don't think that made him feel super comfortable with looking at the standings of, say, the FedEx Cup and being so far down. He's going to work his way up, and it might not click for him until June, July. Like, everyone is I've learned one thing. PGA Tour players have these recurring, like, 1-year forecasts. And every year it's like, okay, I got to make it to next year. I got to make it to next year. That's kind of why they haven't figured out the futures, because all these guys are thinking about the here and now right this very second. And so, yeah, like I actually don't think we'll see any of those fields dissipate, mostly because it's a little up in the air, like what the future is going to hold. Like, grab your points while you can.
I will say this, I'm not basing this on knowledge from anybody. I think Rory doesn't play the Heritage, and I'm guessing Scotty maybe doesn't play in Charlotte. And those are your two biggest headliners, and that is when you knock down somebody off the top of the marquee, you know, it's like taking 3 or 4 guys who have less traction, whether it be to go out there and watch it in person or watch it on television. I'm guessing those two things happen, which is, it's a hit. Listen, thank you as always. Glad you had a great trip to South Africa. I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks.
Sounds good, Gary.
Thank you, Sean Zach. Again, Golf Magazine, golf.com. They've got his great podcast with his colleagues, with Dylan, with James, all of those guys, with Claire. They do a terrific job. We take a break. Taylor Zarzour, host of The Starter, and does a million different things around the game of golf, PGA Tour Live as well. Him with me in studio, John Cook a little bit later on. With you till 10 a.m. Eastern, live on Golf Channel, PGA Tour Radio, Channel 92. Back right after this. Welcome back in on a Tuesday. Here it is, 5 Clubs live on Golf Channel, also PGA Tour Radio. That is Channel 92 on the SiriusXM. This segment brought to you by our presenting sponsor, Century Insurance. They do business insurance. Evaluate yours with them. His program ended 35 minutes ago. He got in an automobile. He drove over here. When he's done here, he'll do a conference call with Brian Daboll, talk about their offseason priorities. Love you, Blue. That's what I'm going with, because the Tennessee Titans have basically become the Houston Oilers. Love the colors, the only jersey I had. He, of course, Taylor Zarzour, host of The Starter on PGA Tour Radio, of course, PGA Tour Live, and as I just said, the voice, tighten up, of your Tennessee Titans. Good morning.
G, good to see you.
Good to see you.
I obeyed the speed limit coming over here this morning.
I don't know how you could have, I mean, it's gridlock.
It is gridlock, yes. You're inching along in every part of Charlotte, but beautiful morning. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
A lot of fun things to discuss. And I'm hoping you'll answer some of these questions that you're going to ask me.
Of course. I'll try.
I want your opinion on some of these too.
That's the beauty of having you here, is that we can just chop it up. Why don't we just start, just because last night, first of all, TGL is on PGA Tour Radio.
Yeah.
Brian Katrick, the voice of TGL on the radio.
And
John McGinnis. Those two guys are gifts.
Yes, they are.
To the game of golf and how they have their own show. Anyway, the point is, here's Tiger. He's going to hit some shots in a simulator tonight in front of a national television audience. What does it mean beyond what it could mean for this competition?
Well, yeah, first for the competition, Gary, I think it's massive. I think the fact that he's playing tonight is going to provide a much larger audience on ESPN and certainly, hopefully, on SiriusXM PGA Tour Radio. It's the biggest night TGL has had. And you consider the fact that the guy hasn't played in any sort of competition in a year, and he's playing in one tonight, I think is a very good thing for TGL. I think he values it maybe a little more than you do in that he sees it as a competitive opportunity and that he has to be completely committed to shots, and he is stepping up and the juices are flowing and he's preparing to try to win. I'm not trying to compare it to an outdoor event, but I do think he sees a lot of value in it, and he really cares deeply about this product and wants to win tonight. Now, I do think that he will use this as a marker tonight. It's not going to help him walk 72 holes and compete in the Masters, but I do think that while he's trying to win, he's also using it as a barometer to gauge his game. And if all goes well tonight and he doesn't have any setbacks, he's playing in the Masters in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think everything you said is sensible. It's not hysterical. It's measured against the fact that he hits a shot, he hands his club to Rob McNamara, and then he'll hit another one eventually. You know my position on how challenging I think it's been for him since the car accident. It's the arduous nature of the things that people don't see a lot of, and that is the walking.
Yes.
That to me has been, kind of the barrier of suspending people's belief of how good he can be and how deep into a golf tournament he can hit, these artistic golf shots. That to me, but however you want to measure, the benchmark of this, it's just another way outside of going to medalists and having a long range session. This gives him lights, this gives him adrenaline, this gives him the opportunity to measure speed under some type of competitive environment. Why wouldn't you value it?
No, you would, and I hope that tonight we get some good signs. I will tell you, being there in that building a year ago, watching him compete before his injury, before his mother's death and before his injury, I thought, my goodness, I'm seeing a guy that is flushing it, and everybody in the building was kind of taken aback by the level of consistency that we saw him just practicing and then competing. And then he had the injury, and it was the end of the year. What we saw in the middle of the summer in 2024 was disappointing, and there was some fatigue in his game, I thought, not only in his body but also in his performance, especially around the green. And there were some signs going into that injury last year that gave some of us some hope that maybe we'll see a guy that's able to compete.
He could have a moment.
More to his standard. Exactly right, that he could have a moment again. So I hope that we get to see that as we're watching tonight. But to your point, though, in a perfect world, Gary, I would have preferred to see him play outdoors before he played in the Masters, whether that's on PGA Tour Champions making his debut or it's in a PGA Tour event going into the Masters. We're not going to see that. The first time we'll see him outdoors is at Augusta National, but we'll be watching tonight to see what it means for 2 weeks.
I was mentioning that for at least one generation, if not two, and I base them based on decades, that whether it be the best players in the world, who, some of them got to see the show in 2019, and all things kind of aligned where you had this kind of cross-section of the generations that he had spawned getting a look and getting a feel and getting a touch of what it's like to live in that space with him in a major, of which he won it at the Masters. But he has been coming off of injury for 2 decades, which makes me ask this question about how much traction still exists from those who will never let go, but a younger generation that now watch YouTube golf that never experienced that live TV show that he gave all of us week after week, year after year. Do you think they show up, whether it be tonight, in a way that the spike is real, or at the Masters, and let's say his window is Thursday afternoon, he plays, and you go, look, the Masters is insulated from all this stuff. Can he still pop with people who never saw the show?
I think so, yes, I do. I think that the game has some momentum right now, and I think that Brian Rolapp has said it well. He has said that there is juice with what is currently the PGA Tour. He is trying to take a new for-profit entity and raise the profile of it and get all the stars to play in the same tournaments. And so while it's in a good spot, he's trying to take it to a better spot. And that's all without Tiger Woods. That's in the post-Tiger Woods era. He's trying to get a bunch of the higher profile players to play in the same place. Having said all of that, if you include Tiger Woods in the tournament, I think it goes from a place where a bunch of people that love the game of golf are watching to a bunch of people that don't love the game of golf are also watching. Jeff Ogilvy, years ago in this town, before a PGA Tour event, was asked by our friend Ron Green Jr., what's the difference between Phil Mickelson's gallery and Tiger Woods' gallery? He said Phil's gallery is filled with people that love the game of golf. Tiger's gallery is filled with those people and people that know nothing about the game of golf. I still think, Gary, he brings those people. I got text messages. You mentioned the Tennessee Titans.
Yes.
I got text messages from coworkers this morning that know next to nothing other than Taylor leaves this building on occasion to go do some golf. And they texted me this morning an emoji. That's all they did. A tiger emoji is all. And I got it from a number of coworkers this morning. You get that from people that don't necessarily follow the game. That is still real. And by the way, a couple of the people that sent me that message are just out of college.
Yeah.
So they fit the profile that you're describing right there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right that there was a cultural component to the impact that he had. It's one thing to break away from the lane of golf into a wider sports lane. Tiger had a cultural relevancy that's been reserved for only a handful of athletes from this country in the history of sports in this country. And obviously 23 had that space. I'm talking about the original 23, as you know. Jones going back. So, but before we go to break, with that being said, because he was the show, give me the story that you think has been the best story in 2026 so far.
My favorite story?
I think I know who you're going to say, because he's now a friend of your show.
Jacob Bridgman.
There we go.
Jacob Bridgman's my favorite.
From Inman, South Carolina.
The fact that this guy was a borderline, A-level player, and has turned himself into an elite player consistently on a week-by-week basis is a really fun story to follow. I love that kind of story where somebody you don't expect all of a sudden emerges and turns into a consistent force. The fact that this guy was standing next to Tiger Woods at his golf tournament, winning one of the more prestigious events in the game, was an incredible achievement. And he's backed it up, too. He's played to a high level on a week-by-week basis. That's my favorite story.
Yeah.
But I would argue, Gary, there isn't a high-profile story so far in 2026.
Yeah.
In the golf bubble, it's what's going to happen to the PGA Tour schedule. That's kind of the story that all of people like you and me are talking about. But out there, everyone that's watching or listening to us right now, I don't know that there is anything that's really stuck so far.
Yeah.
Now, it might be tonight. It might be the next couple of weeks, the fact that Tiger Woods is playing golf. As crazy as that may sound, just having him involved might be the story that sticks to the audience more than any story has so far.
If that is, him getting physical confirmation that I can give it a go, and it kind of started by there, I would say this. It's kind of like, let's go out to the Flemish Cap, and we don't even know what that perfect storm is. Isn't Rahm and DeChambeau in a far-off place, being who they are, with looking at real data and not getting wrapped up in, well, I don't like that, not like this, and that they have been absolutely, and Rahm, the best player based on, looking at everybody, and here they come, and maybe you haven't seen them and you don't value this. They are the far-off storm that is waiting at Augusta National.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you and I know we will, are to talk about on one hand who the favorites are, they're both on that hand. They might be on 2 or 3 fingers if you're trying to pick who the favorites are going into the event for the reasons you just referenced. And it's such a strange time in golf that they are doing this in 3 consecutive tournaments. Rahm, Bryson beating Rahm in the most recent one, that they're doing this. And there are a number of people that are watching us right now that have no idea it just happened.
Yeah.
It is. It's a strange phenomenon, but you're right. Their level of play right now, needs to be recognized, and I think it will be going into the Masters.
All right, we're going to take a break. When you said hand, I thought to myself, but I've got hand. And you know what the next line was? I'm breaking up with you. Come on, Costanza, one of his all-time great moments. We take a break. Taylor's with us until 9:30 on this 2-hour Tuesday. Back with him right after this. Back in. It is a Tuesday here on 5 Clubs, and this segment brought to you by Peter Millar. From Fort Worth in 95 degrees and very lightweight performance materials on the course at Colonial to back in low 40s in Charlotte and single ply cashmere. Whatever it is you need, whatever weight, whatever season, whatever environment, Peter Millar and Peter Millar has got you covered, because the guy to my left is wearing a perfectly weighted sport coat. That, of course, is Peter Millar. That, of course, is Taylor Zarzour, host of The Starter, with me here on this Tuesday. All right, we've got you until 9:30. John Cook's going to join me a little bit later on after that.
Second hour today. Pace yourself.
I mean, 2 for Tuesdays. We're doing it every month. We've got 3 straight weeks with 2-hour shows. You do this. 2 of them Thursday and Friday.
I love this.
I'm very tired by the end of your program on Thursday. I don't know how you do it. The FedEx Cup. Look, for people who see the standings updated, first of all, get over yourselves. They're running a business here, and you're satisfying a sponsor. But one of the reasons I want to show people the top 10 standings is to make a point that you never know what can happen in the early part of a year, but also that, you know, some of these players who are in the top 10 are so deeply embedded that they ain't going to be removed. So with that, give me the locks of those guys who will be in that 10 by the end of the year. Well, number one's not going to get poached out of the top 10.
To your point, I mean, I think Bridgman and Young are in a pretty good spot to stay in there. I would think so, but I mean, is he going to
not a mortal lock?
Is he going to go through another swing change? I mean, the guy has been through a lot in the last couple of years, and his level of play right now is the highest it's ever been. But assuming that it'll stay like that is a big assumption. You would think with Morikawa, hopefully that was just a small setback at the Players.
Right.
But you would think, given his consistent
number 6 a lock to be in the top 10.
Come on, of course it is. Yeah, that's the worst position he'll be in all year. And number 9.
Really?
Number 9 is a lock as well.
Okay, so 6 for Scheffler. He will not dip below that number at any point. He goes in the other direction immediately. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm trying to challenge something that's hard to challenge.
Yes, you are.
Here's why I think this is an interesting exercise. It's that it points to, Taylor, that you have a couple guys that I think are like, that guy's going to be in the top 10 the whole year. That the depth of this tour, whether it be 1 through 30, and then really from 30 to 100, it's like, my gosh. Like, why wouldn't Chris Gotterup, who already has 2 wins, who won in the summer of 2025, like, why would you think that he's going to? I'm not saying he's going to be. What I'm saying is that there's so many good players that are currently not in the 10, and all these guys are so talented, whether they be 25, 28, 32. This is a very, very, you know, the air at the top of the mountain is really thin.
Yes, it is. And to your point, the depth is so strong. But the other thing I would argue is form is a fickle thing.
Yeah.
And playing your best level of golf does not last for an entire season. It's why what Scottie Scheffler has done the last 4 years is historic. That's the word for it. But everyone else in the game has gone through these ebbs and flows. Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele,
Rory doesn't ebb much. It's relative to Scottie, yes, but he doesn't miss cuts. He's rarely outside the top 25. But Scheffler lives in the top 10, and when he's outside the top 10, you think he's in a free fall.
If Rory McIlroy had the 3 straight finishes that Scottie Scheffler has right now, we would not be talking about it at all.
Absolutely true.
It would not be a topic.
Absolutely.
You're right. His ebbs and flows are not like most, but they're not like Scottie's, which is why I don't think what Scottie is going through right now is that big of a story. His approach play must improve compared to where it was the last 4 years, and I'm betting that it will. I'm betting that it will this week in Houston, Texas. I might need to save all my Scheffler picks for later in the year.
Have you burned one play?
I have not burned a play yet.
Are you already out of Russell Henley's?
I'm out of Russell Henley's. I'm holding on to my Schefflers. maybe for the playoffs and,
Do you
and
realize
two late majors.
The 5 clubs roster, Gill 2 weeks. Gill jumps up and wins the Players. Emma with Fitzpatrick.
Yeah.
And I'm getting texts from Golf Channel programming, heads. We're not going to share names. Saying, when are you ever going to win a golf tournament? My answer was the Yankees don't win pennants in April, Stump Merrill. Maybe you can deduce who that is. I will say this about the guys who are not in there. Who are some names currently not in the 10 that are locks to be in the 10 when the season concludes before the playoffs? Rory, a top 10 lock?
If he has health, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't expect that he's not going to have good health. But right now, obviously he's coming off of the issue at Bay Hill, and we saw him play 4 straight days of the Players, but we're not going to see him play again until the Masters. So I don't know the answer to where Rory McIlroy's game is going into the Masters. Assuming he doesn't have a health setback, absolutely he's in the top 10.
Okay, he would start there again, qualifying that he is healthy. We continue. We got another hour live on Golf Channel. Of course, on the radio set, Michael Breed's show, A New Breed of Golf, coming up on PGA Tour Radio. But more with Taylor Zarzour, John Cook, a little bit later on. Nice to have you with us. It is Tuesday on 5 Clubs. Back after this. Good morning and welcome in. This is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel.
You are a vital part of our game.
Thank you for having me on.
All the way to the green. It was, whoo, boy, was that fun.
I've always wanted to be on 5 Clubs. Thanks, Gary.
We are back here on a Tuesday, 2-hour Tuesday. We will do it again next Tuesday as well. It's Augusta National Women's Amateur Week. We're looking forward to talking to a lot of people associated with that wonderful event. That is next Tuesday. But this Tuesday, hour 2, presented by the same great people that present every hour here, and that is Century Insurance. Their business is business insurance. Evaluate yours with them. John Cook's going to join me bottom of the hour, the guy who joined me about a half an hour ago off of his own program on PGA Tour Radio. That is The Starter. You can hear that every single day, 7 a.m., Monday through Friday. He gives you 2 hours on Thursday and Friday. Even if he's in a rental car from Mobile, Alabama to Nashville, Tennessee, he's going to give you 2 hours. He is Taylor Zarzour. All right, we got more to get to with you. Let me ask you about Brian Rolap, because you interviewed him on the day in which he did his big presser. And it was the second time that it was an extended period for him to be heard, him to pose, or him to field questions, as he did at the Tour Championship, as he did again last week at Ponte Vedra. Whether it was you sitting down and talking to him in a formal environment, or listening to him now for the second time fielding questions from the assembled media, what stands out about the early impressions of him and a job that is brand new to him and an industry that is brand new to him?
I would just say that he is rather believable to me, that it feels like he's telling you the truth, that he has nothing to hide. And a lot of times his answer is, I don't have an answer for you yet. Here's what we're trying to do, but we're not there yet, which is an answer. It may not be the answer that you want, but it's the honest answer. He's not trying to contrive an answer or say nothing by saying a lot. He really strikes me as somebody that is trying to be candid and honest. And he's doing a lot of listening, no matter if it's someone else on the Future Competitions Committee or it's the person that is interviewing him. He asked me a couple of questions during that interview about what I would do with the schedule, and I was really ready to tell him what I would like to do with the schedule. I know that shocked you.
Did you bring out a piece of paper from a spiral-bound notebook?
I did have
highlighted, crumpled up.
I did have it in my pocket in case he wanted to use it. But no, I do. I think that he is approachable, and I think that he's candid, and I think that that's really served him well so far. I do think, Gary, that he is seeing how challenging it is to change the PGA Tour's schedule. And I know one of the questions you have is, will this be launched in 2028? I still have my doubts about that.
Okay.
It doesn't look like we're going to see much change in 2027, and I do wonder if it happens in 2028. I admire the fact that he wants to change it as soon as possible.
Yeah.
But I look at, as an example, Gary, Pebble Beach is hosting the U.S. Open next year. Riviera is hosting the Olympics in 2 years. And I firmly believe Pebble and Riv will have huge spots on the PGA Tour's calendar moving forward. And I think Riviera is going to host the Tour Championship, if I had to guess, for many years to come. Well, you can't do that until 2029. I don't know how you would, with the Olympics being there in 2028. So it seems to me like it would make more sense to launch this in 2029.
Okay, so the objectives that he rolled out last week, like you said, it doesn't mean they're not going to happen.
Right.
But the kind of the cadence of delivery may be a little bit more delayed. So when you look at these, of which you asked him about all of them, which one is the easiest to accomplish? Is it the Open Big? Is that where you would start in terms of having something in place, the idea of where the season will begin? Or would you go somewhere else?
I think the consistent fields could happen next year. I think that we could get to a place next year where they say, all right, every signature event in 2027 is going to have 120 players in it, and it's going to have a cut. You could do that right away. There's nothing preventing you from doing that. So I would say that that's the one that I would have my eye on. I do think that the WM Phoenix Open is going to start the season in 2028 or 2029 at some point in the next couple of years. So I hear what you're saying there, but it wouldn't surprise me if next year the American Express that's in the desert of California in La Quinta is the first tournament on the calendar in 2027.
Is that big? Is that big enough for, I mean, when you say big,
no.
I mean, the only one that applies in that category, it's a three-letter word. It better be big if you're saying big. So it's only Phoenix, is it not?
To start big and to have every Tier 1 tournament be the same, then yes, Phoenix would be the start.
Okay.
But I just don't think they're going to have a Tier 1 and a Tier 2 next year. I don't think they're getting there next year. And they have a contract with American Express.
Yes.
And they want to sponsor that golf tournament.
Yeah.
And so I do wonder, are we going to see Torrey Pines and or American Express still on the schedule early in the calendar year? But I think that by the time we get to 2028 or 2029, Phoenix will be the first premium level PGA Tour event.
Yeah, these track 1, track 2, which I don't know if I particularly love that.
Right.
As you know, the idea, are you tracking from one to the other? You don't want to be retracting from 1 to 2, which again gets me to another thing about the idea of relegation in this sport. It does happen. But it doesn't really happen to the players that are most valuable. There is always a parachute. There's always a net.
Right.
There's always a space. There's always a lane.
Past champion category.
Yes. If that presented itself where relegation was real, and the stark reality is that, oh my God, I wasn't good enough, and now I'm in track 2, and there's no pathways, not even temporarily. Do fans want that? Do they say they want it, but do they really want it?
It's a good question, because if you had a situation where Scotty Scheffler or Rory McIlroy had an off year and maybe it included an injury, there are so many, to your point, there's so many provisions right now. Would there be a provision that if Scheffler or anyone was injured, that they would still be on the top track the next year? That's a fascinating element to this moving forward that needs to be resolved. And I think they're trying to resolve it currently. But to answer your question, if you are a star, and I absolutely expect John Rahm and Bryson DeChambeau are coming back to the PGA Tour in the next year or 2 or 3.
Okay.
If one of the handful of biggest names were to get relegated, that would be an interesting dynamic where the following year you would have essentially what Brooks Koepka is going through right now, playing on the second track, while the other top stars play on the top track. I don't know that the public would want that. So I do wonder how they resolve that. I do think it's important to have all the top stars, and I do think it's important also to have this, oh my gosh, if he doesn't make birdie here, he might not be back on the tour.
Unequivocally, and that gets to the Friday afternoons, which is, you know, part of, as you look at a competition in golf, it doesn't resolve itself for 4 days. So you have to find ways, with an evolving product of which you're involved with, presenting it in multiple ways. Friday at 5 o'clock should feel like Jeopardy.
Yeah.
It should feel like a reward or a consequence of not being good enough, which gets me to how does the presentation of the way it's delivered, the way it's distributed, the way that you can pick and choose who you watch, when you watch, how much of that is going to change over the next 3 to 5 years?
That, to me, is the most fascinating question. And I just want to say this. To your point, the best example was the players. I mean, you had Scotty Scheffler and Rory McIlroy both living on the cut, and having to grind to play the next day. That was riveting, I thought, on Friday, all of Friday, to see are the top 2 players on the PGA Tour going to make it into the next day. To answer your question about the product, I think it's fascinating to see what's going to happen with that. I would predict that major networks like CBS and NBC are still going to be involved in the PGA Tour for many years to come. And I think that Brian Rolapp and the Tour recognizes the value in that and why that needs to continue.
Sure.
But given where Brian Rolapp just came from, the National Football League, and seeing all the new partnerships they have made with streamers, with Amazon, with Netflix, with YouTube, there is a new Wednesday night before Thanksgiving game that evidently is going to happen. And if the Tennessee Titans play in that game, I will be happy to call it.
Of course you will.
But I think that the PGA Tour is looking to do business with streamers like that moving forward. What we're about to see at Augusta National Golf Club in 2 weeks.
For sure.
With Amazon now covering a couple of hours on Thursday and Friday and bringing you Masters coverage earlier than you've ever gotten it before in terms of watching the entire competition. You still can get all the featured groups that you can get as a video offering, and you can obviously listen to it on Masters Radio. But the fact that they're now doing those types of deals, I would think Amazon would like to do something similar with the PGA Tour moving forward.
I'm with you. I do think that when he looks at who do we need to tap into that currently doesn't really consume what we do. They like YouTube golf. They like to watch things when they choose to watch things. That's why I think the foray into the NFL Films partnership with Chasing Sunday, to me, if that is not their weekly diary and the drama and the way that you can, you don't watch on linear television, on network television, but I'm going to give you, with drama and with audibles and with music, and an unvarnished view of our product on Wednesday nights to get people interested in the following day and the following 4 days. If Chasing Sunday is not their weekly, I don't get it.
It was extremely well done.
It was excellent.
It was really well done. But you're right. I think that there are going to be new offerings like that. It's going to be fascinating.
Storytelling.
Yes.
Give it to them that way.
It is going to be fascinating to see all this shakes out. Shameless plug, by the way. Houston this week on PGA Tour Live. Billy Kratzer, John McGinnis, and Taylor Zarzour on the coverage. And, Scotty Scheffler is going to tee off early one of those 2 days. And the only place you can watch it is obviously on PGA Tour Live. I do think that there are going to be more opportunities to showcase those types of products moving forward.
Yeah, no question. And first of all, I thought it was the right thing for ESPN to make that, and I don't mean this disparagingly, it's a great innings eater for a digital platform to give people live, not to mention something live that people engage in real-time wagering as well. It was the right thing to do, and I think there's more of that coming, including featured groups and all that. And speaking of featured groups, when Augusta National does something for the first time, it's almost like it's clairvoyant. And things that they're doing, and Taylor just pointed out, in terms of hours, they keep the appetite at a fever pitch. How do they manage to do this year after year after year? We discuss that when we continue. John Cook a little bit later on. 2 for Tuesday. 2 hours with you here on 5 Clubs Live on Golf Channel. Back after this. Back in 2 Hour Tuesday here on 5 Clubs Live on Golf Channel. This segment brought to you by Peter Millar. I was at the Colonial Country Club golf shop on Sunday, and a young lady walked up to me and said, do you want to see? And I said, no, I live in this section. This is my residence. PM, the Crown. I don't venture into other neighborhoods and pro shops. You shouldn't either. It's Peter Millar and petermillar.com. Taylor Zarzour continuing with me, of course, the host of The Starter on PGA Tour Radio, Monday through Friday, starting at 7 a.m. He goes 2 hours Thursday and Friday. You got PGA Tour Live, Hugh McGinnis and Kratzert for Houston. And like you said, you want to watch Scheffler, that's where you're going to go. You know, Augusta National, for people like you and I that, you know, you're a son of the South and, you know, born down here and having this affection for the memories of going there at a younger age, and I went there for the first time with my parents, and then the good fortune of covering it and looking around and going, don't take this for granted. And I don't have to remind myself not to take it for granted, but their ability to understand the marketplace, where I think the perception of Augusta National is it's not only steeped in history, but they're not forward thinking. On the contrary, they are, in terms of the product, understanding the space, branding, things that are new to all of us, they are clairvoyant. And I just wonder your view of it as somebody who's been in this space for a while.
Arnold Palmer said something decades ago about this very topic. And to summarize his quote, he essentially said, the commitment that Augusta National has to always being forward thinking, to making change, while making you think it has been there for 100 years, is remarkable. And they do that. They constantly are evolving, Gary, and they are making changes, whether it's to the course or it's to your experience or to some other part of the property. And they're reading the room better than anyone. And when you get there, you think, this has been here forever. You know, it's incredible, their ability to check both of those boxes. That's a very hard thing to do. No matter what kind of business you are in the world, that's a hard thing to do. And they are the best I've ever seen at it. But you are right. They figure out a way to give the consumer what they want, to give the patron what they want, and to give the golfer what they want. They check all those boxes.
Here's the thing that's most interesting about giving the consumer what they want, because the other three major championships, they're going to let you know that if you want to see every single shot, you can. And it's not that you're deprived, but they have a way of keeping the appetite of the consumer, because they don't inundate you in ways that the other three do. And that's not a fault.
No, that's right.
It's they every single year there's a delivery of something that is either new or different in a space that is either new or different. And that, to me, is how you hold somebody's appetite. You do not give them this buffet where you go, God, I'm halfway through the meal and I just want to throw up.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And there is never a moment as a Masters fan, no matter if you are an occasional fan of the sport or you're an every minute fan of the sport, there's never a moment as a Masters fan where you say, okay, I've had enough. No, that's never happened.
No.
And instead, they have figured out a way to reach the demand, but not oversaturate it.
They keep the demand.
Yes, they keep it.
They do not ever they never make anybody numb to what they're already getting. They entice people to think that whatever is new. And one of the things that's new is that they now have every single shot that you could want to see since 2019 from final rounds of the Masters. I'm talking every player. Like, are you kidding? To present a catalog of people like yourselves, like ourselves, who cover it, that want to give context to say, you know, I'm going to have a conversation with Scottie Scheffler. I want to revisit a couple shots from his two Masters titles, or Rory from last year, which everyone can do. That, to me, is representative of understanding what the consumer wants on their time, when they want it, in a condensed way that you go, God, I'm satisfied and I got it all in 15 minutes.
It's incredible.
It's insane.
It really is. And I think most people are going to have a hard time, Gary, ever getting past Tiger winning in 2019 and watching anyone else's shots, given what he did there 7 years ago. But I would imagine a lot of people are going to go back to last year's Masters and cherish that entire experience And there are going to be a lot of things that happen in that tournament that you've already forgotten. Wow, I didn't realize that this was the case. Justin Rose made 10 birdies on Sunday. Did he really? You know, there's going to be those sort of reactions that you have as you go through all of that.
And I was going to have Rory on at the end of last year and wanted to revisit a few things. And you can do that for the Champions final round, and they condense it. There's no commentary. So there's the audible part of it, but you're kind of thinking to yourself, I wonder what they're saying right now. So, which to me is a great way to experience it again. You're not influenced by the thoughts of whether it be before a shot is executed or the result of the shot by the network analysts. As far as trend lines, we mentioned Rahm and DeChambeau being in this far-off place for a lot of people, but you can hear the sound.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a freight train that's coming. Give me some trend lines that you're like, oh, yeah, he's right on. Who is it?
Xander Schauffele on the PGA Tour would be my guy.
Yep.
Bryson DeChambeau and Jon Rahm on LIV would be the two guys to look at, given the way that they've performed the last few weeks. On top of that, though, Jon Rahm has won at Augusta National, and Bryson DeChambeau has been a factor each of the last couple of years. Schauffele has been a factor there in the past. So I think you need to combine form with past performance at Augusta National. You put all that together, and that's where you come up with the favorites. Now, having said that about Xander, about Bryson, about Rahm, Scottie Scheffler still, to me,
he's in your four,
deserves to be the favorite of the tournament.
Yes.
Going into it. And for a myriad of reasons, but those are the first three names not named Scottie Scheffler that I would be thinking about.
Okay, whether it be based on kind of profile of guy who wins or profile of player who starts to figure out kind of what the algorithm is there in terms of picking spots. Are there a player or two that you're intrigued by based on what they've done, whether it's Jacob Bridgman or others that you go, you know what? Wouldn't surprise me if they're in the deep end of the pool.
The power that Chris Gotterup has, the way that he's able to play the game, and especially a place like Augusta National, making his maiden voyage there is intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Ludwig Åberg has a great record there, only through a couple of starts. And while Gotterup's ball flight might be a little different, and it looks like he is aiming to the other side of the ninth fairway off of the first tee, Gotterup's ability to hit a high golf ball there and land it so softly
is height, not flight.
That's exactly it. And Åberg obviously also has that as well, so he comes to mind. But I'm really fascinated to watch Gotterup in his first start there at Augusta National.
Yeah, and let me ask you, because I asked this of Shane Ryan yesterday about Spieth. Spieth is somebody who genuinely, for people who might be a little bit younger, who didn't experience 15, it was real, man. He was a star. And yet he has now this period of vulnerability that's coupled with this style that is hair on fire, disorienting, I want to throw up, I want to get on the ride again part that people are rooting for him. And then there's a faction going, get over saying he's close. He is dipped in magic waters when he goes down the lane. Does he factor?
I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he?
Yeah, no, I think so. I think there are going to be maddening moments, though. I still believe that.
He's going to make people nauseous, isn't he? In good and bad ways simultaneously.
Probably the guy that is right next to him on occasion. Yes, but I love watching him play golf. I love all of it. I love the roller coaster that is Jordan Spieth, and I think all fans do. But his brain, I honestly, out of everyone in the field, if I were to ask anyone about playing Augusta National, playing the Masters, of those that are playing this year, Tiger Woods would be the first person you'd want to ask. Jordan Spieth would be next for me in terms of how to play every shot there. I think that his brain is a huge advantage for him in that event.
Yeah, his record reminds me a lot of a guy who he leaned on early on, that is Crenshaw, because outside of Seve, in the 80s, Ben had the second best record, had multiple chances, played in the final groups, not only in 87, 88, and 89, and was outside of a playoff in two of those years in 87 and 89.
That was your guy.
He was my guy, and of course he won it in 84, and he finished second one other time in that decade, but Seve won it twice in the decade, and that's what Jordan is. And Ben had that as well. There was a, God, you're going to break my heart eventually, but I can't quit you, man. That's what he is.
When you talk about breaking hearts, I do wonder if we see Justin Rose again as a factor this year in the Masters. And I think a lot of people will be cheering for him to cross the line if he puts himself there out front once again. But if he goes to a sudden death playoff again and doesn't win the event, oh my gosh, I don't know how you recover from that.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Looking forward to being with you at Augusta National in a couple of weeks' time. Hopefully you'll join me on a Masters Monday with the likes of Van Pelt. And Nance and Crenshaw are going to be on the program. Thanks. Great seeing you.
I'd be honored to. It's always good to see you, Gary.
Thank you. Post your score this afternoon. Don't be a part of the Vanity Index. Not only the TV show, but also the culture that is just that at Quail Hollow. That is Taylor Zarzour. All right, when we continue, John Cook, who has played the game at the highest level forever, but also has called golf at the highest level forever. His thoughts on a major championship season as somebody who aspired to win one of these, and also doubt when you know you're one of the guys. Cookie coming up next on a Tuesday right after this. Welcome back in on this Tuesday here on 5 Clubs. Yes, still live, 2-hour Tuesdays. We got one next Tuesday, and then the following Monday, of course, Masters Week. We will have a 2-hour show for you that week and then turn it over to Live From. And this segment is brought to you by Century Insurance, our presenting sponsor. When it comes to the business of business insurance, it's what they do. We appreciate how they invest in golf. First Tee, USGA, PGA Tour, and right here at 5 Clubs. It is Century Insurance. All right, joining me now, when I think of Newport Beach, I think of the towhead, Porsche Carrera. Life could not have been grander for the man who owned SoCal, John Cook, 11-time winner on the PGA Tour, 10 more. He's blackjack, man. 21 wins between the two tours. Great friend and a hell of a colleague to do television with for years. Cookie, Newport Beach, baby, if the walls could talk.
I know. Seriously, I mean, it's so great to be back in Newport, but we're in a hotel. That's the unfortunate thing. Our house is right down the street. Our old place is right down the street, but it's bittersweet being here. I love being here in Newport Beach, but love being on with you, Gary, my friend. We've been together a long, long time. Anytime I can talk to you, I'm in a good mood. Well, and it's early, but I'm in a good mood.
I know it is. You're awfully kind. Just after 6:30 on the West Coast. But
forget about it. You kidding me?
I know. Look, you and I, you've been so thoughtful and generous. Not only as talking about doing what we did for many years together, but sharing experiences. And I want to, for people who know that you were the it guy, you would have led an NIL if it existed then. Having been a U.S. Amateur champion, going back to the final, doing what you were doing as a Buckeye. But when you turned pro, your first full season, you missed 9 of your first 14 cuts. And for the it guy, when all you've done is beat people over the head with, I'm better than you, and suddenly, I don't know. Yeah. And the reason I raised that, John, is that I had Jay Billis in here last week talking about when players go from college to the NBA and they experience a little self-doubt and trusting yourself. What do you remember about the early, and again, this is early, but going, my God, this is not just going to be seamless to where I'm going to be one of the guys immediately?
I jumped into the deep end, right away there, Gary. So Jan and I got married in December of 1979, and we started out on our journey in January of 1980. I made my first cut at the Bob Hope Classic. I made $552, and you lost money for the week. So we're in our car driving around. We're trying to figure out what the heck is going on, and where are we supposed to go? Where do we need to stay? Who do I play my practice rounds with? It was it was a learning experience, and we were 23-year-old kids. Just, hey, I got all the money in the world. I had a contract with McGregor early on for $40,000 for 2 years.
Wow.
And we were just tooling around, just, trying to play golf. And, you're not getting rich playing golf at that point in time, but that's what we wanted to do. That's the kind of the path that we chose. And so we were just kind of figuring out what we're going to do. And, I played, good God, did I play a lot of golf early on, but that's what we did.
Yeah.
We were 23 years old. We had the energy of, 15-year-olds. We were going and going, and, we were visiting places we hadn't been. We'd go to Pebble Beach, which I had been before, had a nice week there. And other than that, man, we were just trying to figure it out. It was, talk about learning on the fly. There's no books for this. You're not talking to any sports psychologist on how to do this. This is two kids just going around and playing some golf. So it was, you kind of, you enjoy yourself and you have some success, and then you have some downs. And I never really had any downs in playing golf. And so now we had to figure out, okay, you missed the cut. Now what do? You got the whole weekend. Where do we go? You just don't know. So it was a learning experience, Gary, and we wouldn't have had it any other way. Honestly, you got to get beat down sometimes to get back up on that step, and that's what we did. We finally got it figured out, and God bless my wife Jan, and it's we made that journey together, and we're still together, and God bless her, because 50 years of doing this, holy smokes.
50 years with the guy who puts numbers in a box. They ain't always in the most level moods. John, you shared a story with me about acceptance. And look, you had great senseis that you leaned on with Venturi and Byron Nelson. But I want you to share with people a story about Tom Watson. And you're playing with him, and he hits a foul ball, and he's posing. And you're looking at him, and then you're looking at Bruce Edwards, and you're going, what in the hell is he doing? He didn't stripe it. And you looked at Bruce, and Tom walked off, and you went kind of like, what was that? Explain what Bruce shared with you about something that was important for you to hear about acceptance.
No question about it. And this is 1983 at Torrey Pines. It was the, I'm not sure, Shearson Lehman Brothers San Diego Open. It was
Did Andy Williams, was he still lending his name? Andy Williams? Heck yeah.
Oh, yeah. He was right there. Absolutely. So I'm playing with Tom Watson in the second group on Sunday. And we're both playing really good, and we're right there. Tom might have even been on the lead or tied for the lead, and I'm one or two back, and Gary Hallberg goes up, and he ends up winning. My great friend and from junior golf.
Yeah.
And we get on the 17th tee, and anybody that knows Torrey Pines, you've got Canyon and Black's Beach down to the left. You've got the world to the right, and he hits this toe smother hook tee shot, and it's out of here. It's going down into the canyon. It's got it. I mean, there's nothing down there but doubles and triples. And so he hits this toe smother hook off the tee, and it's going left. It's gone. There's no talking to this ball. It's out of here. And so he's looking at it, he's watching it, and then he looks at Bruce and says, ball, please. And he hits a provisional ball for a lost ball, not for an unplayable, but for a lost ball. And he stripes one down the middle, and I hit a pretty good one down there in the fairway, and we start and walk off the tee, and I, starting to get to know Tom and Bruce, and Bruce ended up caddying for me a number of times when Tom wasn't playing. And I'm looking at Bruce going, what? He was watching that ball to the very end. I would have been fuming. My glove would have been off. I could have ripped my glove off. I mean, this is the 71st hole, and I'm tied for the lead, and I hit that shot. He goes, that's his punishment. Wow. Watching that ball go out of here. And I went, whoa. Wow. I need to go to another level here. This is how he kind of gets over what he just did.
Yes.
And it lost him the tournament. I mean, lost him the tournament by a couple. I think I ended up beating him by a shot, and he might have finished. I think I finished third. Kite was second. Gary was first, and I go, man, I just learned something here. This is stuff that, Kenny and Byron and whoever else was around me, Tom Weiskopf.
Yep.
This is stuff that this is what you have to observe. Nobody's going to tell you how to do this. You have to observe this. And I just was fascinated with Tom Watson from then on. I knew how great he was anyway, but this took it to a whole different level.
And John, if people who don't have a lot of memories, but if they can think of several, one thing he never had that moment, that meltdown moment. The acceptance. I mean, my God, from that moment in 1983 to the 72nd hole of the 2009 Open Championship, the 8-iron that was a yard off. He didn't drop his shoulders. He didn't drop his chin. He didn't look to the skies. Acceptance. Took it for what it's worth. Move on to the next shot. He did it from the beginning to the end.
Absolutely, and you look at the greatest with Tiger showed his emotion. Yes, he did. That's the one guy. But you look at Jack, you look at Hogan, you look at Byron, you look at Tom Watson, you look at Trevino was all about that. But you look at all those guys, and you just didn't know if they were winning the golf tournament or losing the golf tournament. It was all about acceptance, like you said, and man, that was interesting to me because, being the son of a old football coach and, racing motorcycles and playing football and basketball and, golf all at the same time, I couldn't, my emotions were right there. You could tell exactly what was going on in my life. But I did learn acceptance. Absolutely. If you want to get on Sunday and you want to get to that finish line and have a chance to win, you better accept the stress. You better accept anything that's going wrong. And how do you fix that? Tom Watson did it in his way. Ben Hogan did it in his way. Kenny Venturi did it in his way. Jack did it in his way. Tiger did it in his way. And you have to learn that.
I've been lucky enough to play some rounds of golf with you. Actually played a couple on television when Lanny was just eviscerating me when we were playing in Chicago. And Marco Mir was my partner. I was a bag of excrement. But
so was I.
Well, John, one thing about you is that, God, your move out of the center of the face, and that's a byproduct of keeping things on plane. You're involved with something that I think, like, nobody should be talking about the power plane more than John Cook. Give people an idea, because you don't lend your name or your time or your voice to things frivolously, why you think this thing has value.
Yeah, it's called My Power Plane, Gary, and it's a very simple device, as you see right there. It's made out of foam roller material. It weighs about 2 pounds. It's so portable and so flexible. You keep it in the back of your car. You can keep it in your golf travel bag. It comes in a great little bag. And what it's going to teach you is understanding what the core is supposed to do, what the plane of your golf swing is supposed to do. You put it around the back on your shoulders, and you get in a nice stance, golf posture, and you just turn. If you're running late to the first tee, grab this out of your car, do 10 or 12 passes with My Power Plane, and you're pretty much ready to go. You can practice with it in between clubs on the practice tee. You just don't grab 2 clubs and swing clubs and kind of end up hurting yourself. This is going to teach you core value. It's going to teach you how to swing a golf club. It's like I said, it's so portable. I know that the weather has been awful in the Midwest and the Northeast.
Yeah.
And you're out there, you're watching March Madness right now, but it's snowing outside. It's 15 degrees and it's almost April, and you want to go play, but you haven't been able to get outside. You can do this in your house, and you don't need clubs. You don't need the big fancy gadgets. There's no setup to this. You can, while you're watching March Madness, you can just turn around your body, staying in that pocket, keeping your head right on the golf ball, and just learning the core, letting your shoulders turn, your hands and your arms are out of the golf swing. And that's how I learned, honestly. That's why I like this device. It's something that somebody went to Bob Papa. We all love Bob Papa, and he brought it to me. And it was in a big plastic type of. It wasn't portable at all, but it had value. I said, "Wow, man, what if we made this into a material that you could travel with, that you could put in the back of your car?" Yeah, lightweight is exactly right. And an old high school buddy of mine, who is the foam roller king, We said, I'm going to get Art involved in this and see, can he come up with this into like a foam roller material? And there it comes. And so it's my power plane. You can use it anywhere. I use it. Hey, I'm 68 years old, Gary. I don't like to hit a lot of golf balls. And if I'm running, to go play some golf, I don't want to waste all the rest of my shots on the practice tee. I'm going to get on the golf course and go play golf. And I can do this, and I can go cold shaft it, go right to the first tee and say, you know what? I'm going to stripe this right down the middle, because I understand and my body is moved. My body is prepared to go play golf. And that's what my power plane does. It teaches you that. Not only that, it's got fitness value as well, Gary. You can sit on an exercise ball, learn about core, learn about fitness. Jamie Mulligan has it incorporated in his gym.
Who's one of the great instructors. Yep.
Absolutely. He's totally behind this, because if you watch him and watch his players swing a golf club, it's all about staying in the pocket. It's all about turning around your head, shoulders, back, core muscles, lower body, holding position, and just turning in that pocket. And if you start to learn more about yourself and your core, you can start to rotate faster and turn faster through the ball. You're going to hit it straighter. You're going to hit it longer. I mean, like I said, I don't lend my name to barely anything, but this kind of caught my eye, and I use it. I'll use it this afternoon when I go out and play Virginia Country Club. I'm not going to go hit balls. I don't want to go all the way down there and waste shots. I'm not going to go to the first tee, but I'm going to have 5 minutes of warm up, in my car. So I'm ready to endorse this. I think it's a great device. It's simple to use. It's easy to obtain, and it's a lot of fun. You start to learn about your body, and at 50 years old plus, that's kind of what it's aimed for. Men and women, fitness, golf training, warm up. I mean, it runs the gamut.
Well, like you said, John, I mean, people don't have a lot of time, and lightweight, portable, efficient, all that. Last thing, if you can share in just 60 seconds, the Masters for you was a weird relationship. God, you loved it so much. You loved it
Yes.
so much that you played yourself out of a way to win it. Explain to people why, like how that happened for you, just in 60 seconds.
So, 1979, I played as an amateur, being the U.S. amateur champion. I got a start there. I played my practice rounds with Ken Venturi, Tom Weiskopf, and Ed Snead, by the way.
Wow.
Who should have a green jacket in his closet. And I learned so much, and I loved it so much. Kenny always thought that my game was going to fit around Augusta, because I could shape it right to left, left to right. I could hit it high. I was a good putter. Short game was pretty good. And, through my years of all my starts, I was going to wear that green jacket on Tuesday. I knew it. My game was always spot on and sharp. But I practiced myself out of form, and I prepared myself out of form that by Thursday, I didn't know what end of the club to use. I loved Augusta so much, and it never loved me back. But I think I just over-prepared every single year. I was ready to go play. The week before, I was always ready, whether it was Greensboro or wherever we were coming from. I felt like, okay, this is going to be it. Just hang in there. Don't over-prepare. And I would go and I would hit balls and I would play holes. And, man, Tuesday afternoon, I could not wait till Thursday. And by Thursday, man, I was exhausted on Thursday morning before I even teed off. But
yeah, Cookie, the record makes no sense.
I love it.
15 starts, no top 10s, and then the other 3 majors. Combined, you have 5 top 5s in a couple of seconds, and 2 of them. Listen, I love seeing your face, hearing your voice. Look forward to seeing you soon. And again, the power plane, this great device. You don't have a lot of time to hit balls, to get your body in the right frame of mind and state.
Yeah, mypowerplane.com.
There you go. Cookie. All right. We take a break. We come back, and those were winning words presented by Century Insurance. I could hear stories from John Cook all day long. We come back, wrap it up on a Tuesday right after this. Back in on this 2-hour Tuesday here on 5 Clubs Live on Golf Channel. This segment brought to you by Peter Millar. With it being the spring season soon enough everywhere, if you need to make some additions to your wardrobe, and it's not just golf, that's the beauty of Peter Millar, is that it is a brand that covers everything in your life, whether it be work or play, beach or golf course or anywhere in between. It is the platinum standard of luxury lifestyle brands at petermillar.com. A reminder tomorrow, we've got Kurt Byram's going to join us, part of the broadcast team from Houston. I think Memorial Park, and again, it's a flat piece of ground in the shadows of downtown Houston, Texas. It's got great history. It's got soul to it. It's a public golf course with a double-decker, practice range, and it's not like double-decker like Top Golf. This is old school. Jimmy Demerit's old haunt, and the fact is they get the loyalty of the best player in the world who shows up every year. So we'll talk to Kurt about that. We got our picks for the aforementioned Houston Open. We got dogs as well. But tonight, TGL, which, again, it's what it is. It's additive for the TV show and the competition that is the PGA Tour. Tiger's going to hit golf shots tonight. And it's not about me asking you to value them inside in a giant simulator. It's the idea that everything that he does in terms of wanting to play, giving it a chance, having a shot to enter an event, whether he's emboldened or whether he is defeated to whatever degree, and I don't think tonight that would be the case. If he, has a night where his body responds well, where he has, adrenaline associated with what competition is in the sport that he dominated, I believe that he is going to go to Augusta National with the purpose of trying to compete and play. And as I said, for too many people who now really love this game, the only thing they've ever associated him with is coming back from injury. Because the reason why he was what he was when he wasn't coming back from injury is that it was just a whirlwind of performance and execution that you're going, he can't do it again next week, and then he kept doing it. And now, to people who are 20, he's kind of a mythical figure. Well, that guy's going to hit some shots tonight and come out of the tunnel, and what it means for 10 days from now remains to be seen. We'll have a recap tomorrow. Kurt Byram picks dogs on a Wednesday. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. For all of us here at Signature Sports Group and 5 Clubs Golf, we will see you tomorrow on a Wednesday.